welcome back to my channel. My name is Jasmine. Today is Monday, which means I've got another speed build video for you, and today we are making some New York townhouses. In this video I'm only furnishing 2 apartments, one photographer's sim apartment which is on the top floor of the building to the left, and on the ground and basement floor of the same building I have turned that into like a boho artist apartment, and I figured that sim in my head would be a single parent, so they've got a toddler's bedroom as well, and then they've got the whole of the basement area is just an art studio and then also their bedroom. So unfortunately I don't think they have any windows in their bedroom, so that's a bit of a shame, but what can you do? If you live in New York you have to make some compromises. I also wanted to mention that in this speed build I'm also going to start talking about some real life stories that I personally think are quite entertaining, and I thought they might be interesting to talk about in a speed build because I know a few people have been doing similar things. So stick around if you want to hear some stories about a few bad dates, because I have got some stellar bad date stories. So they are coming later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. But in terms of the exterior of the build, I really struggled. So you see me cut out a lot of footage because I basically was improvising building these. I was just sort of making it up as I went along, and the basement area was really quite tricky, and getting all the stairs in the right place and making sure I had all the right windows. And I actually ended up editing what you see as the final exterior off camera. So I basically just changed the colour of 2 of the building's walls. I keep the brick the same colour on the building to the left, I think, and then I changed the middle building to like a sandy stone colour, and I changed the colour of the windows, and then on the right I turned that building into like a bright red brick just to make it cleaner, because I feel like all 3 buildings had different styles. The middle one was quite classic stone, and the one on the right was quite classy. Although I haven't furnished all of the buildings off camera, I did make out floor plans and basically put the base tiles and floors in case you wanted to furnish them yourself, because I was going to do it and I sort of set myself up to do it, but I ended up not going through with it because I didn't think it would make for interesting content for you guys. But if you really disagree and you want to see it in the comments, then I'm sure I can revisit them. But I did create 2 apartments, so I hope that's okay with you. In a minute you'll see me start to furnish the first apartment, which like I said was a sort of boho style artist apartment, and in this one I add absolutely tons of clutter. It took me so long, so sorry if I've edited out quite a lot. I don't think I've edited out too much of the interior, to be honest. It was just the exterior because that was quite fiddly, and like I said I went back and forth quite a lot, so I cut out quite a bit of the boring stuff for you there. But yeah, in terms of the interior I use a lot of debug options, and if you're going to download this I would definitely recommend downloading it with Move Objects on sheet. I would generally use that sheet when you download any of my builds, but particularly with this one it was very cluttered. I thought that fitted the style quite nicely of an artist who probably collects quite a few decorative objects and things from different cultures maybe. So you can see I've got that armadillo from Strangeville ornament, and then the skulls, the little snow globes, maybe they visited different areas and they sort of collected them, you know, to make them feel more cultured. I feel like that's quite an artist boho type of thing to do, isn't it? So the style is not very modern in this one, it's quite cozy, quite traditional, very, like I said, culturally diverse. But then upstairs in the apartment of the photographer, that's definitely a modern vibe. It's very dark and crisp and clean, whereas this one, like I said, is much warmer and much cozier. So I hope you like both of them. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. But anyway, I wanted to talk about some bad date stories, and basically what inspired this was that I absolutely love listening to people's personal stories and just dramatic stories and just general drama in speed builds, because it can be quite boring just listening to people talk about builds, I find at least. And I love getting to know different simmers and details of their personal lives just because it makes me feel more connected to them. So I'm hoping that that is what you guys want to hear too. Let me know if that is not the case. So I've got a few lined up because I'm generally quite an awkward human being, and I've had some really awkward moments in my life, so I'm still debating how many of them I'm comfortable sharing with you guys, because some of them I'm not sure if they cross a line or not. But we'll see, we'll see. We'll ease into it with the first date stories, because believe it or not, they are probably the tamest of of the few that I've got. And unless it takes me longer than I thought to tell the stories, I'll probably talk about 2 bad dates today in this video, because I've got one that was like an actual bad date, like the behaviour of this person was actually really quite concerning, and then the other one is just really, really funny. So I think I'd save that one to last, and then the other one, you know, we can judge this person for being an actual terrible human being. So I've got lots of fun stored up for you today. So to give you context, I am actually in a happy long-term relationship, so the dates I'm talking about are way, way, way in my past, so I can look back on them and laugh, thankfully, because you can't do much else with them, frankly. But not only have I had 2 of these awful days, I will also say that on another date I actually got stood up, so that is probably my ultimate worst date. To get stood up on a date, that's the worst thing that could happen, right? But a close second, we shall say, was when I met up with this guy who, first off, as soon as I met him, he clearly didn't look anything like his pictures. He was definitely a catfish. If you've not seen the TV show, which is, by the way, amazing, I absolutely love Catfish. It's one of my favourite TV shows. It's when people online basically put pictures up of different people and they pretend to either be a different gender, they pretend to be way more attractive than they are, or just a completely different person altogether, and then they sort of blurring their date into thinking that they're dating this perfect ideal person, and then they turn up and they're completely different, and it's a horrible shock to the date. But yeah, that's basically what happened to me. This person looked nothing like their picture, completely different, definitely wasn't attracted to this person, but I was still going to be nice. I was still going to, you know, get to know them and see if there was a connection, but I had in the back of my mind that it wasn't going to work, basically. So we went to a pub that was really near my house at the time, and just for convenience sake, and I think they lived nearby too, so we were just having a chat and they were quite nice to talk to, and I am a really easygoing person. I'm not shy, so, you know, I was really easy to talk to myself, and I probably looked like I was enjoying the date quite a lot, but that's no excuse, frankly. So after the date finished, this person, because I was so nearby, he was like, oh, do you want me to walk you back to your house? I was like, no, it's okay, it's literally just down the road, I'll be fine, mate. But he was like, oh no, I'd really love to see her, you should give me a house tour. And I wasn't threatened by this person in any way, no shade to him. He was, you know, quite slight and quite short, so I could have him if he tried anything on with me. Like, there wouldn't be a problem between us. But yeah, it's still unacceptable. You don't just invite yourself around someone else's house, that's just rude. He kept pushing to go around my house, and if it happened to me now, I'm a lot more confident, I'm a lot more self-assured, and I'll just be like, no mate, back off, just go home, I'm not interested. But, you know, I was quite young at the time, I think I was like 19 or something like that, and so I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll give you a house tour, thinking he'll have a look around and then I'll kick him out. It was when I was a student, and my student house was one of those terraced houses where they had like 3 bedrooms upstairs, and then they'd converted the living room into another bedroom just to squeeze as much money out of the students as they could possibly get. So I had the downstairs converted bedroom, so as soon as I opened the front door, we walked straight into my bedroom, and he just sat down on my bed and would not move. Like, he was not going anywhere. I was like, oh God, this is a bad start. He seemed polite in every other way, but that was not a very polite move. Like, who does that? Who just invites themselves into your bedroom? It's just so weird. So anyway, like, he was not budging from my room. I was like, oh, so do you not want a tour of the house then? And I eventually managed to get him up and like walk around the house, which was a tip, by the way, because although I'm clean, my housemates were not very clean. So the house looks absolutely grotesque, and I was not expecting visitors, so I had not bothered to tidy it up for him. But yeah, so that was awkward in itself. But then he unsurprisingly walked back straight into my room and sat on my bed again, and then I was basically standing up whilst he was sitting down for like a good 10 minutes talking to him, like really reluctantly answering his questions, sort of waiting for a good time to kick him out. And then he started like asking me to sit down in the bed next to him, so I went and sat on the opposite corner as far away from him as I possibly could, trying to give him the best hint that I possibly could that I didn't want anything to do with him. And then he just launched at me. He like genuinely just threw himself onto me and started kissing me. I was way too polite at this point. I definitely should have just kicked him out. And I very politely stopped kissing him and said, look, I don't know what you're doing, but I've only just met you. This is not really acceptable behaviour. Can you please stop? I don't really want to kiss you. I don't want to kiss a stranger. Maybe some people do, but that's just not me. He was just really rude. He was like, oh, you're just shy. Oh, you're just shy. I was like, no, I'm really not a shy person. I'm really quite outspoken and I'm not afraid to talk to new people, but quite frankly, I wasn't saying this, but I just don't fancy you at all. And then he just went out and said it and he was like, oh, are you attracted to me? And I was like, well, I don't know you, and it's kind of important to me that I know a person before I start being attracted to them, so I can't say I am, no. You know, that was obviously a polite spin on it, and I shouldn't have been polite. Like I say, I should have just been brutal and told him to F off, but I didn't. I was nice. I'm a nice person deep down, you guys. But shortly after that, I kind of managed to convince him to leave because I was clearly so uncomfortable that he did end up just leaving really awkwardly, but it was honestly like the worst worst date I've ever had. And then the other date that I wanted to talk about, it's slightly less cringe because it wasn't as awkward in terms of him being so forward and so inappropriate. It was mostly just like laughable. But for this second date, I actually knew the person before we went on the date, and we were basically meeting up the first time in absolutely years to see if it would work out in a romantic way, which I will say again, after meeting the person face to face, I had also decided pretty much on the spot that it wasn't going to work, but but I still gave it a go. So what we were going to do was, because I knew him already and we lived nearby, we were just going to go to the shop, get some food, and then go back to his and watch a film. And bearing in mind this person is not a stranger, so I didn't feel like I was in danger at all. I felt pretty safe, so I wouldn't recommend going back to someone else's house on the first date if you're meeting them on Tinder or anything like that. So we ended up meeting at the end of my road before going to the shop together. So whilst I was waiting for him, I sat on the wall at the end of my road, and it just so happened that it was near a bin that was, it's pretty gross, but it was overflowing with rubbish, like bags of rubbish were next to this bin. I didn't even notice, so I couldn't have been that close to them. But I hadn't even noticed this, but when we'd got to the shop, I passed him a basket, you know, to put the things we were going to buy in. He was like, oh yeah, and here's your bag. And he just passed me this plastic bag, and I was like, I didn't have a bag. I've got my bag here. This I've got it in a tote bag. Like, what bag are you passing to me? And he was like, oh. And then I noticed it was just one of the bags filled with rubbish. So he had just picked up this bag of trash. I don't know what was in it, but it couldn't have smelt nice. I don't know what kind of person he thought I was that just carried around plastic bags full of trash. But he passed me this bag of rubbish thinking it was mine. God, that was awkward. And then we ended up going back to his house, and I had brought a film that I wanted to watch. So we put it on, and we had a lot in common actually. So we were just chatting all the way through the film, which is absolutely fine because it's a date and you're there to talk to each other, aren't you? Not to watch the film. So that was fine, but we didn't watch a second of it. And then he decides that he wants to put on Wolf of Wall Street, which is his favourite film, and I'd never seen it before. But for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a 3-hour long film. I think it's 3 hours. It's a long film basically, and it's got Leonardo DiCaprio in it, and he basically just plays this character who takes a load of drugs, is very inappropriate in a lot of ways, which, you know, I'm not that uptight that I couldn't appreciate a film with some drugs and sexual behaviour in it. That would have been fine, but it was a little bit intense for a first date. Like, maybe save it until at least the third date. Is my advice to you. And even then, if we were talking through it, it would have been fine. But he literally made me shut up throughout the whole of the film for 3 hours long, made me watch this whole film silently while he like tried to snuggle up to me. I was like, no, I'm not watching your film. Like, after you've just talked all the way through my film, I'm not then just gonna go and watch your shit film that I hate. I do hate that film. It's like my least favourite film in the world now. I was outraged. I thought that was, not only was it so rude, but so inappropriate. But anyway, yeah, that wasn't even the worst of it. I was so done. He was also like trying to, like I said, snuggle up to me on the sofa, and I wasn't having any of it, and I was in a bad mood with this guy, so I just sort of like edged as far away from him as I possibly could. But he didn't take the hint. Like literally the whole film he was like trying to get closer to me, which was kind of sweet but also awkward. But then at the end of the date, I don't know if he wanted me to stay longer, but I was just trying to get out of there as soon as I possibly could, basically. So I said, oh yeah, I've got to go. I'm gonna walk back to my house, maybe see some friends. And he was like, oh okay, I'll go and see my friends too then. I was like, okay. So I had to walk with him, and then he wanted to go to the shop to get some cigarettes on the way. I was like, well, I don't really want to have to go to the shop with you. Can't you get your own cigarettes? But then he was like, oh no, I've lost my card and my ID. I was like, okay. So he asked me to buy him cigarettes for him. Well, one, I don't smoke, so I've never bought cigarettes. I don't know what the process is. It's going to be really awkward. And two, I don't actually, no offense to anyone who smokes who's watching this, but I am a singer, and so I really actually quite dislike being around smokers. So it wasn't the best way to get in my good books to begin with. But then he asked me to buy these cigarettes for him using his, I don't know, he must have had some sort of card payment system on his phone via an app, which I have personally never used before. Yeah, so I had to pretend that I was buying them for me, but on his phone. So I agreed to do this just to like get it over with as soon as I possibly could, with as few complaints as possible. So we went into the shop and I was buying this thing, and I was about to scan it on his phone like he asked, but as soon as I got there, the screen died. And so I had to pass the phone to him for him to swipe it. So it was so obviously not me buying the cigarettes. It could not have been more obvious that it was him who wanted to purchase the cigarettes. And luckily the person behind the till didn't make a fuss of it. They were quite chilled. But I can't believe like someone would just have the balls to make someone else so uncomfortable on a first date after everything else that had gone wrong that day. He was just so desperate to smoke. Clearly I just made him so uncomfortable that he was craving a cigarette. But yeah, oh, that was really awkward, that one. I just can't believe that there are that many people out there that think that kind of behaviour is appropriate. Like, especially the first date that I mentioned. Like, how can you not take a hint? Like, honestly, especially since I was so confident throughout the whole day. I was the one that was talking the most and, you know, bringing up topics of conversation. And I'm not a shy person. I'm really not. I'm really comfortable meeting new people and getting to know them. And he just couldn't take the hint. It's like, I'm not interested, mate. Just please leave my house. I really did not seem enthusiastic when he suggested going around my house. Like, that should be your first hint. You should just say, no, it's all right, I'll leave. You have a nice evening. I don't know, he just must have been very desperate. I can't tell if he's just deluded or if he thought that it was okay that he was pressuring someone into, you know, potentially taking things a bit further. But there be some horrible people out there. This is just a word of wisdom from an experienced dater, that you should just be confident and tell people, you know, don't let them pressure you into doing something you're not comfortable with. If at any point you feel like they are suggesting something that you are not comfortable with, just say please leave, because they're a stranger at the end of the day. They don't owe you anything and you're never going to see them again. So if you make an awkward situation, who flipping cares? Because like I say, you never see them again. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed laughing at my terrible love life. Like I say, at the minute I'm quite lucky to be in a long-term relationship, so I don't have to put up with dating life anymore, which I'm so glad about. It really was awful, but I mean, yeah, some people were really nice, and it is exciting when you meet someone for the first time. So if you are dating and it's hard and you're struggling, you know, don't give up hope, because there are nice people out there, I promise. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching the build and listening to me talk about terrible dates. Like I say, I'm probably going to try and make this a regular thing as possible. I'll try and line up a few stories that I can think of, but once I've gone through all of my embarrassing stories, I'll probably just start talking about topics like TV programs and general interests, and maybe I'll get you to vote on a few things as well. So if you have any ideas, leave them down in the comments below. But yeah, let me know if you like the build. Let me know if you want to do any more of these apartments, or if this is just enough in this video. If you liked it, please like, comment and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.